topic that needs to be addressed. So tonight I'm just going to basically tell people about myself, explain what the authority and responsibilities of a state monitor are, why a monitor was sent here, what my goals and some of the actions that I've taken to try and implement those goals so far. And if there are specific issues that I've learned about so far, that I will comment also. And I'll just talk a little bit. The main thing is to open it up for questions and to address issues that all of you are individually have. And when we do the questions, if you could stand up and talk loud so everybody can hear. Sometimes when people in the front talk, they don't talk as loud because I'm closer. If that happens and you can't hear, just yell it out, and I'll make sure I repeat the question that the person asked, so that everybody can hear the question and obviously hear the answer. So to begin, so as far as I'm concerned, myself, I had a first career working for the Internal Revenue Service in a couple of different capacities. And then for over 20 years I've been a business administrator in Bergen County. And recently I was appointed a state monitor for Elmwood Park because they had a similar situation where they experienced a deficit and a shortfall of cash. Very similar type process that Belleville is experiencing. The state monitor, by statute, that's the final authority for hiring, firing, and total oversight of the Board of Education. I try, as well as other state monitors, to work cooperatively with the Board of Ed and the administration of the schools. The biggest goal is to take care of the kids. And all my decisions and recommendations will be based upon facts, and also whatever the decision may be, how will that impact the children? Because we open up the school day, for 10 months a year to educate the children, so we should be prepared to act every day in their behalf. The state monitor was appointed here based upon two factors. The first one was the school year that ended June 30th of 2013. The audit report had multiple findings of related to problems within the district, relating to grants and some other issues in the business office. That coupled with the fact that for this year, the 13-14 year, the district was experiencing a huge deficit, and they were having difficulty making payroll. And the only way they were able to make the payroll is that they held up and didn't pay some other bills, which forms the basis of the deficit. I had hoped by now I could talk specifically about and offer the exact numbers of the deficit and the overspending. And I can't do it tonight because it was late last week, it was Friday. We found another issue which changed the numbers, notified the auditing firm that was called upon to assist, so they had to redo their report. I will say this though, the exact numbers will be made public, become public knowledge at Monday's regularly scheduled board meeting. At that time, the audit report, the report, it wasn't an audit report, the report from the accountants projecting the deficit, documenting the deficit and the shortfalls will be made public at the board meeting. The board board will receive copies of that report on Friday so that they can look at and ask their questions, and it'll be fully open on Monday. I've arranged for the CPA who prepared the report to come Monday and talk about the report, talk about how and what assumptions he made and how he went about preparing it and coming to his conclusions. My goals, obviously, is to straighten out the finances and put Belleville back on a sound financial path. And I'm working very closely with the business administrator, board secretary, and we've already taken steps. What we have to do, I have to write a report requesting the state to give us additional funds to help Belleville or enable Belleville School District to pay off their debt that they owe their vendors. When I have to document and prove to the state that yes, that this is the number, this is how much we need, and the CPA report will help establish that. I then have to certify that the next year's budget, which begins July 1st, the 14-15 budget, will not repeat the mistakes and errors that were made in 13-14, and that there will be no overspending, and the district's budget will be balanced, and there will be money in the budget to repay the state in part for any funds that they advance. In order to deal with that, and the deficit is large, it's going to require, I would like to say, doing more with less. And there's going to be personnel impacted, and every position or every program is on the table. The only programs that are not on the table are programs that involve children. We're not looking to touch academics. What we've done is basically reorganized administration. We're reorganizing support staff, and basically that's about as far as we've gotten so far. We, as myself and the business administrator, and together working with the superintendent. The next stage is to look at more support staff, but then also certificated staff. Do we need all the instructional staff that we have? With that, I'm working, because I can do the numbers, but to try and measure the academic impact, we will be consulting with not only the superintendent, but the building principals themselves to review all programs. And we're not going to do anything unless we have their input. We've also went out for requests for proposals for all our outside consultants and professional contracts, and the results of that process will also be made public on Monday night's meeting. One of the other, that's basically finance. There are other issues that I've become aware of because I've only been here a short time, that there's a feeling that amongst all the employees that some feel intimidated or bullied, and I have no first-hand knowledge of it. However, the statements and the allegations keep coming, so I requested the staff to provide a list for me of everyone who was transferred, whether they said they were voluntary transferred or involuntary transferred during the 12-13 and 13-14 school year. And identified over 40 employees. Today I met with the administrative staff, and specifically the principals, and gave them a list of the 42 odd people. And it was just an alphabetical listing of the names. Second column was their assignment, wherever they transferred from, and then wherever they transferred to. And I asked the principals, each one individually, give me a list of which of those employees were they sorry that they lost, and would they want them back. To the principals who received on the receiving end of the transfer, did they want to keep the person, or did they want to go back? So there's going to be a process, but I will then be meeting with all the principals to determine, I'm going to try and determine what the atmosphere was when that happened. My next step is then to the employees themselves to see, get their input, to see if they want to go back to their original slot or not. So it's a process that is going to go through. And I already know that some of the transfers that were made were for educational purposes. There were a couple of people that were in slots that they did not have the proper teaching certificate for. And if that's the case, then they can't be there. We have to move. And I'm going to be going through all of that, and hopefully we can get that resolved before September 2. All contracts that we have with vendors, as I said before, are being reviewed. And that's a little bit of a lengthy process, but nothing is being taken for granted. Everything is on the table. Monday's meeting is going to be a lot of information forthcoming. I invite you and encourage you to come to the meeting on Monday. I just want to, I don't say caution you, but advise you that there is a demonstration scheduled by the NJEA to take place starting at 5:30. I'm not even sure what it's going to be, maybe on the high school field or something. And they expect a lot of demonstrators. The police will be exercising traffic control, so it may be difficult or different. We may have to take a different route to get here. I don't know what that plan is. And then last but not least, the doors will be open earlier because I don't know if the demonstrators all would want to attend the meeting. And if they do, it's going to be first come, first served. Because we will have the fire marshal here. And if the room gets filled to capacity, nobody else will be let in. If you don't have a seat, you're not coming in. So, that's just an advisement. Whatever you think. That was my general overview. If anybody has any specific questions, I'll take them. I just ask that you don't have to give your name. I don't need any of that. Just if you would, when recognized, just stand up and try and talk so that everybody can hear. Sir.
Can you tell me some of the mistakes that were made?
Yes, they were bookkeeping entries were made with respect to some of the grants. And another mistake, which was critical, was the overspending of the budget, which was basically involving a lot of different things where money was spent, but also a big part of it was the number of people that were hired over the previous year, which were not budgeted for in the budget. Yes, sir. I'm going to repeat the question because I want to make sure I heard it correctly. You were a former employee, you believe that you were wrongfully terminated? In what? And bullied. And then you want to know what you can do about it. We can do that. Okay. As far as the wrongful termination, I would start off with a letter and send it to the board secretary, giving you full identification. You know, go into particulars of where you worked and what your job was, and why you think you were wrongfully terminated, and we can handle that. And then if you put your identifying information in that, and then we get that letter over to the former employee. Okay? Correct. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be, I'm having difficulty understanding, so. Well, okay, so there's two different things. One is your situation. So, as I said, write the letter and we'll follow up. As far as the other employee who went beyond 12 months and didn't have his certification, I would have to look at the employment contract, because I know in some districts the superintendent or the Board of Education can extend that requirement to give the employee 2 years again. Okay, but I don't know. But that's two different situations. So if you write the letter, we'll start with yours. Okay, thank you. You're welcome. Yes.
Once the kids leave the grammar school, there may be 2 or 3 days of paperwork that a secretary would have to do, and before school starts, maybe another week of paperwork. But there really isn't enough for 2 months for those 10 people to be all put to work. So if you haven't already looked at it, you may want to consider looking at it.
I am absolutely looking at that point already. Okay. Yes, sir.
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Egan. At the last board meeting, I brought to your attention that the auditing firm, McInerney and Brady, had itself given the campaign of Joe Longo and Bill Frieda several $1,000s worth of campaign contributions starting last summer all the way through the election cycle. You seem to be somewhat taken aback by that and asked me if I could provide you with copies of those documents. So I did print out all of the campaign finance reports from the New Jersey Election Law Enforcement Commission. I'd like to give these to you now.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you. What I wanted to bring to your attention is that as you're leafing through these documents, you'll notice the large number of recent administrative hires who themselves gave thousands and thousands of dollars worth of contributions to one reader. So there's certainly a duplicitous nature to this and a real aspect of quid pro quo. But as you read through that, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You mentioned that some of the teachers have been transferred because of lack of certification.
They were, yes.
Why were they hired to begin with with that previous decision before they were transferred?
Well, that's one. They had the certifications to teach, say, a general education class, and then someone thought that because they were good, they could also then maybe teach in a special ed class, and they would have needed an additional certification on their teaching certificate in order to accomplish that. Upon further review, when they found that they didn't, the person then was brought back to their original assignment.
There were their salaries.
There was no salary impact. Yes.
Good evening, Mr. Egan. I think that Mr. Sheldon probably provided in his reports, but there is a term, and obviously it doesn't fall into the same category exactly. However, we do in effect have a pay-to-play issue. Because whether it comes to some of our vendors, or whether it in fact comes to some of our administrators currently here in the elect reports, you will see significant funds donated to those political candidates at the time, who, by the way, those administrators do not even reside in the town, and yet significant donations have been given as documented in these, and we would appreciate your review. We would also, there is a question, and I am a former member of the board, and I did bring this up years ago, and I was told that it was simply a negotiated issue and there's nothing that could be done. However, I'm sure you're aware that I do think there's some conflict of interest that in the administrators' contracts, we pay completely for the administrative, for the dues to the administrators' union. Are you aware of that?
It's a standard element in administrators' contracts that are in probably every district in Bergen County that I'm aware of, and I don't know about Essex County, but where it's a negotiated item that the school district will pay for the dues for the administrators to join the Administrators Association.
Okay, but that's a negotiating body, is it not? That negotiates with the board, and yet the board is paying the dues. And that amount, and it does amount to thousands of dollars.
The board is paying the dues per a negotiated contract.
Okay, I understand your response. In regard to coaching, there's been very subtle punitive measures taken in that coaches within our school district, generally in the high school, some of them have had extensive experience and have had impressive resumes in the performance of their teams. And yet people were brought on as coaches who have absolutely or practically no foundation at all within that particular sport. And though one would feel that those coaching stipends were minor, if you really take a look at some of these stipends, and when you see that some people are receiving stipends for the fall, for the spring, and for the summer, some of those stipends can add up to significant amounts above salary. And yet there was really no answer given as to why certain coaches were pulled off and certain people were replaced. And that brings me to the general concern that we have, is that we need in this district to get back to the more standard routine of not simply looking at credentials on paper, but certainly taking a good look at professional resumes and what candidates have to bring to the table to improve this school district in regard to our children. It seems that there was some political expeditious behavior in the final hours, especially of last summer, in how people were transferred and also how certain people were given contracts. The question becomes, why did we wait when we knew that those openings were there for at least a couple of months at a time?
Well, the only comment I can make is I can't go back. All I can try and do, and I will make sure it gets done, is that there's a fair process going forward.
Yeah, Mr. Egan, I certainly am not implying that, but I'm just making you aware that members of this community are very much aware of some of these things that have concern. And we're here tonight because we're asking you, please, you can see what our performance ratings are in this district, and we're asking you to give these teachers what they need to do the job for the benefit of our children.
Well, I'm trying to do that. Once again, I'm just trying to make it going forward, to make the process involving everything as fair as possible, and to solicit the opinions of the stakeholders in every decision moving forward.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
That goodness, they were able to split them both, and she has focused a lot on my son, which he needed help. And I can't say enough about her dedication, her devotion to my child. If it's all about the kids, you have to think about that first.
Well, I do.
Where the budget should go, not by giving these teachers that are trying very hard and doing their best to educate our kids, giving them a pink slip. Or the principal. She did enough for this school here for her first year that a lot of the principals have not done. Let look at that, all right? Really not focusing on this camera baloney, focusing on the kids' education, because what's going on with kids' education? Hello?
May I answer now?
Sure.
Thank you. We're faced with the budget crisis. We only have X number of dollars. The state law is very specific. Very specific. If there's going to be a reduction of the employment force, the employees, my hands are tied, everybody's hands are tied. The people that are most vulnerable are the people that do not have tenure yet. And if you're a first year teacher, administrator, custodian, secretary, it doesn't matter. If you're the first one, if you're on your year one, and there's someone that's been here 8 years, 10 years, and has tenure, and there's a reduction in force, the people that don't have tenure by law, have to go first. My hands are tied. Yes, ma'am.
I have a quick question. My son started a brand new integrated preschool class at number 7, brand new this year, and the new teacher, Jenna Cantana, she's exceptional, and she is her first year. So with that program, that integrated preschool program, be in jeopardy for that particular school?
I just happened, one of the areas that I was looking at, together with the business administrator, and also focusing, is to maintain our programs. And we spoke with the special ed staff and everything, and my understanding is, and I can confirm it on Monday night, that those programs will be run next year. They're not being eliminated. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
Can you just explain how the budget works as a special education department?
I just want to repeat, you asked me to explain how the deficit,
Has affected the special education department.
how it's affected the special ed department.
Maybe special ed, there's different, things involved.
I'm not sure if I can answer that question, how it's affected them. But all the children that have been evaluated by the child study team and have received the classification, they're still going to receive all these services. And the children are not going to be affected. Now, are you talking about the children or the staff? Yeah, the children are not going to be affected. Yes, sir. Yes.
First of all, my question, will the staff be affected? If so, that reflects on the children.
What about the children that are going to school out of district?
Okay, I'll get to you in a second. We'll get back to the thing with the children. If there's a reduction in staff, will the children be affected? I don't think so. I'm not an educator, and I rely upon the evaluations of the people that are in charge of the special ed unit. And they're saying that they can provide the program and maintain the same levels of care and commitment. Like, for instance, supposing you had paraprofessionals and there were 4 children in the room, special needs children, and you have a teacher. Would you need 4 aides in that room? Well, there are some children that will need that, but there are other situations they may not need it. So I'm going to rely upon the supervisors and the child study team as to what can be done.
But are you aware how long it takes for one child in our district to go through a child study team? It took my daughter 9 months to be evaluated. 9 months. Where in other districts, they find out within days or weeks, a small amount of time. Meanwhile, you've wasted a whole year of my child's education. We're wasting years of our children's education, bickering back and forth on books and this and that. My gosh, these are children. Let's start educating them. Let's stop making change and let's be the change. Let's stop futzing around. We're parents and we've been put at arm's length. We're parents and we're mad and we're upset and people are afraid. Do you look around here? This room should be packed with parents concerned for their children's education. And this is all we get. You know why? Because people are afraid to speak up. People are afraid of what's going to happen. 40 years of my life, I grew up here, and this politics were always politics, but things got done, and things weren't undermined for other people's advantage, for their families, and this and that. And all I ask of you, and I'm so glad you're here, and I'm hoping that you will be a light of hope for us, and not like it's been, that you can be the change and bring it back to the Belleville that it used to be. Let's simplify it. Let's get back to basics. Let's bring back old school. Let's bring back education. And how about textbooks for our children? And how about supplies for our classrooms? Teachers that are working on Windows 95. Come on now. Floppy disks. I mean, our principal, and I know she knows how she got her job, but let me tell you something. I have to say, she did a good job this year for a person that's been in as a principal for 1 year. And I'm not here to be political or sway sides or this, and that. There are some good that they did. They put excellent teachers at school number 7. She did a good job this year. Give her a chance. Give her a chance. Give these teachers a chance. Give the teachers that perform well a chance. I don't care who she's related to. I really don't. As long as she's doing the job, let her do the job. And that's all I ask you to take into consideration for these kids and for this town. Let's bring the good back in this town. I'm tired of it. And so are a lot of towns.
Yes, sir.
executed this
do is if I discover any, with finances, any acts that are inappropriate or borderline illegal, I will make the necessary referrals to the Attorney General's office. With respect to if I find and can establish that employees did something that was unethical, the proper notifications for ethic violations will be sent to the Ethics Commission. Yes, I will do those things. The Title I, for instance, is already being investigated by the representatives of the federal government that check on the accountability of the Title I funds. So that's already being done. I'm not going to duplicate that effort. Now, going into other areas, if mistakes were made, whether they, let's say they weren't mistakes, let's say they were done deliberately, the idea is that the consequence is the deficit and we overspend the budget. So I'm going to correct that so first, I'm going to correct that first, going forward to make sure it doesn't happen again. That would then give me, when that's all in place, that would give me an opportunity to go back and look at some other things. But first thing I'm going to do is I have to right the ship, because that's where my focus should be.
If we get it, first of all, the state has no money, so it's our tax dollars on the back that gave the state the original tax, which is all different pockets. What is that? Whatever it is, the 2.3 million or the $4 million figure that's in on, does that become part of our basic budget?
No.
That makes it because I did it.
I know what the question you're talking about. It does not. It's not. It's basically, it has all the characteristics. If the state gives us the money, it has all the characteristics of a loan, but it's technically not a loan. When it's treated accounting-wise, the state is advancing us our future state aid. They're advancing it to us.
I want to put our tax bills from 1991 to the year 2000. In 1991, we received only $1 million in Board of Education. In 2000, 10 years later, we received $19 million. In that same period, with all that increased state aid, our local tax rate went up 1,753%. So that's my fear. When we get more state money, it just becomes, oh, the budget, that's the new budget.
But they passed the law about the 2%. So the tax levy, going forward, is basically going to be 2%. No, it's not going to be part of the base. Yes, sir.
Speaking, the problem today with me is the problem we have in the town of Belleville. One, misuse of town funds, nepotism, and fraud. Like you say, you're going to try to punish the people that did all this. This all started with people that we didn't need in certain jobs. Like most of the people here are interested in their children. And that's what education is all about. There's not enough books, not enough supplies, but yet we spend money for security. I didn't see a cop here tonight. Look at all the people. Where's all the security tonight?
I do have something to say about hiring people. All future employees that are recommended for hire, I have to approve. Now, as far as, I don't understand what you mean by freezing them out, freezing the job.
Well, if the position is frozen,
Meaning don't fill it.
make the position within, that's what I'm saying, don't freeze it. I'm saying don't put a new person in it. That's what's happening in the schools. We got all kinds of new employees, a friend of a friend, and it's wrong. We have a certain people a certain person that's doing all the hiring through the Board of Education, got a bunch of students out there. So the point I'm making is, you know where all this problem's coming from. And I want all this to stop immediately, help our children, help the teachers, and we have a lot of extra people working in the school that are not needed. Is that true that in this school we have 3 administrators? In the high school?
Yes, you got the building principal, you got a vice principal, and you got a athletic director. So that's not outrageous.
Well, most of the schools have a principal and assistant, right? It's not
No,
sort of
there are high schools that have 2 assistant principals, or 2 vice principals, depending upon the population of the school. You have a school here, an elementary school, that has a vice principal,
As far as
which doesn't normally happen, but the vice principal is there. The vice principal is there because the population of the school is big.
some of these jobs are new, that they've been approved for the past year. Now, you're going to take it out if they're not needed?
We're reviewing all the staffing, not only just certificated staff, non-certificated, administrators. Come to the meeting Monday.
Okay. Now, the other thing is, the election is going to be in November, the Board of Education.
Correct.
Is that true? We cannot, we the citizens, vote on the budget.
You cannot.
Can we get this law changed
Sure.
by the state official?
You have to go to the state.
Because I don't think it's right, because as you know, we're here because there's millions of dollars been squandered, and the kids aren't getting the money for what they need. Now, the other thing I want to ask is, I think we made, the superintendent of schools made 2 extra days for the children next year to be off for Jewish holidays. I'm not objecting that, but will the children still serve the same amount of days for school?
Yes.
It wouldn't hurt the kids going less time.
No.
Okay. I don't want to elaborate too much on that.
Okay.
Should be one more question.
No. Come on. You're up.
I just have a question. In this whole new security system that they've implemented, they have tracking devices on the kids' ID. Don't you need parental consent to do that? I mean, I'm sure that that's some kind of technology that costs more money, and I don't see how that helps our kids at all. Like, I have a 10-year-old going to 5th grade, you know, soon he's gonna be coming here. I definitely don't want this company knowing where my kids is 24/7 when I'm the parent and I know where my kids are 24/7. I don't need them to know that. So I think that it's just some extra money there that we're probably paying for no reason. And the next thing is, my child is in school number 7, and I have a kindergarten going there next year. And they already went through a very dramatic, last year, through a very dramatic change from one principal to another. And I don't think it's fair to the kids. I don't think it's fair to the staff. Because imagine you being a grown-up and all of a sudden, you know, things change, you know, for whatever reason. you feel the insecurities, you feel, oh my God, what am I gonna do? Imagine these kids, they're gonna be feeling the stress that their teachers have because there's this new principal walking in the building with new rules and new things to implement. Then they have, at the long run, they're the ones also suffering this whole change going on. So please take that into consideration. We definitely wouldn't like to see this principal go and then have another principal come and then probably next year another principal come. It doesn't make any sense.
Thank you. Yes?
I know you're here to kind of straighten out the situation. I know you're very analytical about it and you're going to go through the black and white process. What I think everyone is wondering about, how are you going to cut through the politics? We've had the business administrator that had no experience. That got us out of work. We also have a superintendent that is not making decisions for the kids. She's being told what to do. How do you rectify that? Are you going to be able to say goodbye to the superintendent? Can you do that? The incompetence is surmounted, and that's how we got into this position. How are you going to lead through these politics? How are you going to know the players because you're coming outside?
I don't have to know the players coming from the outside. All I have to do is meet them. At every position, I will interview them. I will look at their credentials. And if someone gets a job, then you wait 6 months, especially if they're brand new. You look at the current evaluation that's coming down. There are other signs that come up, whether or not the employee, whether it be a teacher, a secretary, a custodian, a bus driver, any employee, over a short period of time, there will be signs of whether or not the employee is functioning correctly, or if it's a good employee. And if it's a good employee, I don't care who they're related to, or friends, because you want to keep your good employees. The issue comes is that if the employee is not a good employee, you have to go after the immediate supervisor to take disciplinary action. Not that necessarily.
The superintendent's not the immediate supervisor. I'm not talking about the lower level.
Well, no, but that's where it starts. It starts with the evaluation processes with your immediate supervisor. And if that immediate supervisor feels intimidated, that's where I want to step in. No intimidation, and all they have to do is. I'm a very confidential guy. Somebody tells me something in confidentially, I'll never repeat it, but I will take action on it. But that's what we have to do. Yes.
I was at the faculty meeting because I am a faculty member, and this was a question that I brought up. You're saying again, talk to the administration, and the administration are the ones who are also part of this problem. They're just as corrupt than hiring and allowing this very easily to do a good evaluation on someone who's not doing what they want when you're being told that you need to give that person a good evaluation. And it's also very easy to say, give that person a very bad evaluation because we want to open that position up for someone else. That has been happening in Belleville for many years now. So, I mean, and we're laying it on the line. I'm not the only one saying this. You have parents saying it, and you have community members saying they see it and they know it. We want to see action.
So what I'm saying is, and obviously I can hear the theme. You all, majority of the people here are tired of it, and frustrated with it, and you want to change, and you want to get back to a better place. And you can all talk all night long to me, and I have no immediate answer for you. You have to give me time to try and do something. I hear your anger, I hear your frustration, and I'm dedicated to try and address it and to change it. Because the culture, yes, the culture in this district, maybe it was great years ago, and it took a left-hand turn or a right-hand turn, it changed. Now it's time to go back to basics.
And how long is it going to take you to give us some answers?
What answer would you like?
All these answers, you're saying that you
Well,
need months?
No, I've told you what I'm going to be doing. The other question is, what you're gonna have is, how long is it gonna take for you to see something visible? Right? Come Monday's meeting.
So in other words,
Okay.
have faith in you.
Okay.
Have faith in you.
Yes, and then judge me by my actions, right? And just not the words, the actions, so we'll see. Okay? Very good. Yes, sir.
You said we have vice principal, number 8 was the population of that school?
I didn't say it was number 8. I know it's,
Okay,
I know it's,
vice principal, one of us was
Right.
supposed to the population.
right. That's what I was
I
told.
just wanted to clear up that it was because she's the girlfriend of the councilman in Norton that was friends with a particular party.
Because you're saying it's not uncommon to have a principal and a vice principal. How come other districts don't have a principal and a vice principal in this school? How many kids have to be in the school to have a principal and a vice principal?
I don't know off the top of my head what the rule is.
Okay, you
That's,
want that?
sure. Come Monday, I'll have an answer.
I mean, because now you have 3 people in this school that are getting top second, so not one of them will be one of our local teachers or one of our maintenance people or something. You know? Because most of them are coming from France.
I'll find out. Yes, ma'am.
I understand we have 2 principals on special assignment. I believe one at the high school and one in the middle school. This was a creative job. What is their special assignment? From what we do, is go here, there, it's a creative job.
As I said before,
Huh?
as I said before earlier this time, administration has been looked at.
Okay, so you know about those 2, that they got tried about it.
That's right. Okay, thank you.
As the head of special parents and coordination, I need to go back to her special ed question about the out-of-district send, because it's a very easy thing to say, okay, we send this kid out of district and we're gonna drag him back and we're gonna save, $50,000, but I just wanted to be assured that, that's something that's gonna be looked at, and it's not gonna be looked at as an easy thing, because sometimes it's very detrimental to send them back to district and, you stunk them and it's a year later and, they gain nothing. So I just wanted to go back to Georgianne's point that, when you're looking at special ed, that's not something that should be looked at as, okay, it's an easy cut, because those kids are being sent away because there's something, more involved in them than just being able to sit in class.
I'd just like to comment on one thing you just said. I've never used the term it's an easy cut. I don't like cutting jobs because you're affecting people and their families. It's a very difficult position, and what's driving it is the money. If we don't have the money to pay, we have to reduce. If there was an overhiring that was done, that's got to be corrected. But I don't like it, and it's not easy what I'm doing. I feel too. Yes, ma'am.
Is there any possibility that we can modify the clarity contract?
That's being reviewed.
In reference to various programs and club programs and the out-of-district, districting of the special ed students.
No programs are being, as of right now, no programs are being cut. They are on the table as a last-ditch situation. I don't think we're going to get that far. As far as out-of-district children, the child study teams will actively review the IEPs, and if there are situations where the children could receive a better education in-house, those children will be brought back. And in doing so though, the process is to consult the parents, because the parents are members of the team and have input into the IEP, which dictates the placement. Okay. Yes, sir.
Belleville has had a historical issue with people jumping the borders to get into our schools, and it's no secret that our classrooms have become overcrowded recently to the point where Children are being moved from grammar schools to the middle school, complicating issues there where statistics are really strained. And I was wondering if you're going to consider reinstating the domicile investigators that worked so closely for so many years with the town to control illegal housing, quality of life issues, and burden the Belleville taxpayers with children who don't live in our town.
Yes.
Thank you.
18 months.
And you said that you didn't want to go back. And I'm just speaking in terms of you understanding. You have an inconsistency on tax return. And you're looking down 2012 to 2014. But the practice really originated maybe in 10 or 9. You cannot not address that issue and go and make an amendment going back. Maybe I understand your initial focus is to correct going forward. Will you address going back?
I don't know if everybody heard that the example she was giving is if you worked for IRS and you found a discrepancy on a more current return, with the issue was there previously, would you go back and try and recoup your money? But this is not the IRS, because if you go back and you document that this was overhiring and there was misspending, and we spend the resources to do that investigation, what do we gain? IRS would gain the back taxes and the interest. What would we gain?
Also accountability. Because it didn't originate in 2012.
No, I understand that. I know what you're saying, but I'm trying to, I guess, reinforcing my position that my focus is going forward, because I don't see, one, I have to fix it, but also because I don't see the gain to the Belleville district of going back at this point in time. If I had the time to do it, yes. We have to go forward. We have to fix the deficit, which we're halfway there. And the biggest obstacle we're facing right now is so I can certify to the state that the 14-15 budget will not be overspent, and that we will be in budget. And part of that budget, but just to touch on something else. Once again, I didn't go back to look in 13-14, this current year, as to what happened. But I do know that for the 14-15 budget, there is money in the supply lines, the textbook lines, and the academic lines. And when I get the budget balanced, that money's there, that money will be spent in 14-15 on expenses connected with the classroom. Textbooks, supplies, and what the teacher Yes.
I have a question. My daughter goes to 8th grade at preschool at school number 7. And now I understand now we have to pay to go to school for her to go to preschool. So where is that money going? Because I have to pay $175.
175.
It's like me, I have to go get a job just for her to go to school. It's a summer school program, right? No, it's a regular school program. It's not a summer school. It's a regular school program. They ask us to pay $175.
Wait, I'm sorry. Yeah, but is this a preschool program?
Yes.
Right, okay. Yes, and the checks will be made payable to the Board of Education. It goes into the general fund. It goes into the general fund for the discretionary use of the board, mainly to pay for the expenses connected with the preschool program.
But it doesn't make sense, like, why I'm paying public school with our tax.
Okay, because public school, public school though is required. Public school by law is required to have a half-day kindergarten, and then you go through a half-day kindergarten through grade 12. Some districts have full-day kindergarten. And technically, the school district, if they were strapped for money, could ask the parents to pay tuition for that second half day. When it comes to preschool, if a child has disabilities, there is preschool disabilities that the school board, preschool program for children who are disabled or with disabilities that the public schools will pay for. But if you have healthy children, God bless, for the school to provide that, we need the funds, and we ask the people who are sending their kids to the program. And most schools, and many, there were several schools in the area that for the same program are charging I heard $250 as opposed to $175.
I was surprised that this is the first time I ever heard in this town they actually fix public schools.
But that's what you do. Right, preschool for everybody. One more second. Yes, sir.
If the Board of Ed can compel teachers and the students to wear those tracking devices every 28 seconds, it bounces off their products, but they will compel to.
I believe so, yes. I think that the school board and the school has a statutory authority to require students to maintain their identity.
They can enforce it. That's why I like giving those funding.
Thank you all. Hopefully on Monday, I encourage you to come to the meeting.
I just want to say what you said. I was getting mail at home.
Let me turn this off.